Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Junkyard Digs. Today you join myself, Angus, and this 1981 4-speed 350 swapped Malibu in Ames. We just bought this car, and we're going to show you how to take a condition unknown vehicle and in no more than a weekend make it perfectly reliable, hopefully, for daily driving. This is normal inspections and stuff to check on your first hot rod. Are you ready?
I should have brought an umbrella.
Yeah, no kidding. Angus, how are you today?
I'm damp.
Fair. As mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, this is a 1981 Malibu that we just picked up for $3 in Ames. It's got some rust, it's got some dents, some dings, but it also has the fixings for an excellent daily driver.
Absolutely.
Like a complete sleeper. As you can see, right here, we have some goodies in this car. Someone's done some work to this, and it's looking to be pretty darn fun. I'm excited about this. Now, for once, this should be a very easy video for us because this car already runs and drives. It's been sitting since about May, so it's been a bit since it's been on the road. But as you can see, it's got a 350 Chevy, Corvette valve covers, headers. The AC is even all still here, and I believe a pretty nasty camshaft. Want to hop in there and fire that thing up?
Absolutely.
Let's hear it rumble. Oh yes, right to life. Dude, it's pretty good.
That's awesome.
Give her a rev. Oh yeah, a little smoke. Might need a little tune-up, but that's exactly what we're looking for here. Oh, I'm so excited for this. Yeah. Well, should we just jump straight into this, get this back to the shop, get it out of the rain, and get to work?
First real question, do the wipers work?
I hope so. Yes. Yes, they do.
Wow. Well, we'll try not to wear that out.
All right, let's hit the road.
I'll follow you.
We've also got full instrumentation. Look at that. Good oil pressure, good charging. Oh, does the radio work? No, but you don't need that. Ooh, a tachometer. Oh, that sounds wonderful. Throw bearing makes a little noise. Alright, here we go. Whoops. She's stuck in the hole a little bit. That clutch is goofy. Wow, this thing, I'm either in third or it's got an atrocious rear end ratio. I think I'm in first, but I think it's got like a factory rear. Pretty sure this is a V6 car. Yeah, super sticky steering wheel. Oh yeah, she runs a little rough. She cuts up a little bit. Alright, I should probably test the brakes. They work, good. Glad I thought of that, you know, here. First gear might as well be third. I haven't shifted once. $2 at 45 in first, I think. Or oh, maybe it's like 411s and I'm in third. And it died. Okay. Please hold. Oh yeah. Yep, that was third. Okay. I thought first was reverse, so this should actually be way more spicy now. I took off out of the hole, a hole in the ground, the hole in third. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, she's got some gears. Okay, yeah, 55 at 2100 and 4th. She's got a spicy something in the rear. That's so much better, what do you know? As far as drivability goes, we got a little bit of a on-throttle stumble when I punch it, so that's accelerator pump. The shocks are non-existent. It is a bathtub full of bowling balls, so it needs some help there. Our brakes could probably use a little help, just kind of standard stuff. This is pretty much perfect for you just bought a vehicle totally condition unknown and plan to drive it to work Monday morning. This is good. I'm excited. All right, let's get some fuel in this thing and see if the gas gauge works. I'm afraid it does, which means we're out. Definitely low on power steering fluid. There's some really rough noises from the trans. Throwout bearing, I think, but it's... Oh, if I even lightly touch the pedal, it screams. Yeah, throwout bearing, seen better days. Alright, let's fuel it up. Dude, this thing is hilarious. It's very violent to drive, as in like squeaky old pedals. And you hit the throttle and sets you back a little bit, but more importantly, you let off the throttle and the nose dives and you go flying. Okay, top of the list of things to fix. Driver's door handle, no do anything.
Hasn't been an issue for me so far. What's your problem?
Screw off. Come here. Ah, easy peasy. Hey, the gas gauge works. Alright. Begin screaming throwout bearing. Yep, I know. You need greased. I got you. The one shitty part about manual cars is I need both hands to drive, so let me get this thing out of town and I'll be back. Alright, here we are outside of town. A little test drive. Odometer says 65, reality says 57. We're doing 57 at 2,500 RPM. That's not a bad gear ratio. That's like I guess like a 340 or somewhere around, like a 342 or somewhere around there. I don't know where it ends in this. I'm assuming it's a 10 volt. It does feel like it's maybe a posi. Either way, things are going good. Got a little mental list of a few things to fix, but I think we need to get this back to the shop, empty everything out of the back, and go beat on it a little bit and really see what else needs fixed. Besides just the light load issues. Oh, here comes the train track. Nope. It's way louder now. The exhaust just fell off. It is now open headers. Okay, add that to the list. Alright, well, as one would expect of something that was previously daily driven, we made it. Let's get her emptied out and go for a little test drive and really get a feel for what all this needs. I wondered if this wasn't attached.
Look, it's a tiny little snowplow.
We're very different people, you and I. I'm excited about a sway bar because this thing wants to kill me. You're excited about a squeegee.
When's the last time you saw one made out of wood? When's the last time you saw a woolly mammoth use one of these as a toothbrush?
Alright, let's go for a drive. It's not fast, but we're going to fly all over the place because there are no shocks.
Jesus. I see what you mean by the throwout bearing. Sounds like a bag of worms. If worms
I
could
never
scream.
said that once.
I knew what you meant.
I didn't want to.
Bag of worms if worms could scream. Yeah, that's, I quote you. Dumb. Why is this thing so violent?
I don't know.
Tokyo Drift, is that you?
Alright, bath time.
Bath time.
Is this white, yellow, cream? What is this? It's cleaner, I'll say that much. Alright, let's go figure out what else we can find wrong with this thing. Alright, let's see what kind of tuning we're dealing with here. Slippery. Yeah, ignition cuts out a little bit, something, but not bad. Good starting point for sure. Very typical of a project car that you just picked up. You can do a donut?
Oh, I bet it will.
Let's find out. donuts I've ever done. Like, I just let go. I don't even know if I was turning the wheels, and the car just like went around one tire. Just held the RPM and it just drove around it. That was weird. Just cuts up a little bit. All right, I'd say we got a good idea of what we need to fix. Should we get to it?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Yeah, that's top of the list. All right, here we are in the shop, ready to work on this thing. Surprisingly, we have some good stuff in here. This guy was an older guy, so usually you run into some tuning stuff sometimes. They get a little stubborn with age. Please don't take offense to that. It's just old school tuning guys do things a little different. But in a weird twist, this car looks pretty damn well set up. I think this guy legitimately knew what the hell he was doing for the most part. He's got exactly the amount of good parts he needs, no extra chrome or bling. He spent the money exactly where he needed it. For instance, this is a Holly Street Avenger. These are really good carburetors. This is probably a 670, 600, 670, somewhere in there. He's got it set to ported timing. Not a four-corner idle carb, doesn't need to go that ridiculous, but it is a good carb because the Holly Street Avengers have throttle shaft seals, and thusly when they get warm, the ones without leak air really bad around the throttle shaft, and therefore go very lean. This one does not. This is a very good carburetor. I've run these for a few years, and they are probably my favorite out-of-the-box go-to carburetor. From what we could tell from the parts file, I believe this was a V6 car to start with, so he swapped in a 350 and a 4-speed into a wagon and then just drove the wheels off the thing. Perfect straight rod. Hilarious amounts of fun, dirt cheap to do, good drivability. He's got the AC actually hooked up. I would not be surprised at all if he went through all the work to put this 350 in and still have AC in the car, which is like the only option the car came with, so that's cool to see. Long tube headers like we mentioned, clutch fan, nicely set into the shroud. This thing's pretty well built. I'm very happy with what we're seeing. Actually, how do the plug wires look on that side?
On this side, oh, well, I mean, the fact that those are touching the header?
That could do it. Oh yeah. Here's a little melty right there. That would explain why it got worse as we went. It was melting more. Yeah, pretty typical stuff here. Cleaned some stuff up that was left over from the swap. Wash the engine bay, do a little tuning. Really shouldn't take a lot to get this all fixed up. Let's get her up in the air a little higher and see what we're dealing with underneath. All right, welcome to underneath the car. A few things popping out right away. New brake lines on the rear. A little rust in the floor here. Overall over here though, not bad. There's our shift linkage and stuff. That could get oiled up. Aftermarket cross member, a G-Force cross member. Thing fits pretty damn nice. I'm gonna have to remember that exists because that makes this exhaust tuck in there really good. Speaking of exhaust, yeah, that's where she went. Looks like she was rusting from sitting. Also, Angus found this right away. There's a spark plug chilling in the header. Super turbo mufflers, yeah. Old Monroe.
Shockmatics or something?
Gasmatic. I think that's what my wife calls me. Either way, we know as a fact those are shot. Ooh, classic clip-in G body and rear wheel cylinders. This is a G body, correct?
I think so.
Did it have roll? We figured out how to tell the difference. Did the back windows roll down at all, or is it just the smoker glass?
No, the back windows do not roll.
It's just the little smoker glass. So if you have just that, it is a G body. If this rolls down at all, even halfway, it is a B body. Our fuel lines have a little surface rust, but seem fine. Fuel tank. This is a weird fuel tank. Just a stubby little guy off on one side.
Oh.
And then the tires over here.
Oh, he's tall too.
Looks like we've got old calipers on, old hoses, but as of now, everything appears to be functioning and behaving, so we might not need to touch it for a bit. Bit of dry rotting in the tires. Yes, power steering is definitely leaking. We know that as a fact.
Power steering line is wet. The pressure line's wet all the way up.
Got a little bit of a pan gasket leak, a little bit of rear main leak, a little bit of transmission leak. You'll have that when you got something this old with this many miles on that was driven that much. So overall, I am not really too concerned about anything I see. I think we just go through standard operating procedure of preparing a car for daily use. Wheel bearings, inspections, make sure everything's greased up, nothing's gonna kill us, and dry the wheels off of it. Let's show them how to do that. All right, we got our wheels off. Let's start our inspection on our favorite thing ever on the channel, brakes, which for once, I don't think we have to do. As you can tell, that's a new pad. We got plenty of life left. That brown part in the center, that is the pad. This part right here, this steel piece is the backing plate. As you can see, these look great. These brakes have been done recently. So our fronts are good to go. Beyond that, we're gonna look back here and inspect our rubber hose for any cracking or damage. This one actually, despite being rusty, looks good. When these sit, these generally go bad just through time because they swell internally. So even if they are rusty like this, you might still want to go through the effort to replace those and bleed your brakes back up, because you'd really hate for one of these to start sticking a caliper on a road trip or while daily driving or explode on you. Which brings me to my next point. Hard lines. You need to look out for rust. These right here, these look okay. Not too worried about those. That's just a little surface rust. I can give it a wipe with my finger. It feels good. It feels like the full dimension of the line is still there. Not really a big issue. Not too worried about him.
For once, I think we might even get away without doing rear wheel cylinders. These look like they've been recently replaced. They're dry all the way around. There's only some flash rusting on the metal and just normal brake dust. It actually looks like they put on new shoes fairly recently.
Yeah, definitely a lot of pad life left there. Our hardware is old, but none of it looks broken.
Yeah,
Not even too rusty. And our star wheel turns. We might still put a little more grease in that guy. But yeah, for once, I don't think we're going to be doing brakes, which is fantastic because we don't have time for that right now.
Agreed.
We're getting married in like 7 days, and this video is getting thrown together.
Not we, he is. Not us.
So yeah, these look good. Our rotors look good. Our drums look good. I think we're good. If you do have any brake issues, you see any uneven pad wear front to rear or left to right, which indicates a seized caliper, or in our case back here, sometimes the front is usually a little ahead of the rear, but that's fine. But if you see any uneven brake wear, or if there's a bunch of grease in here, or stuff that you've seen all the time in our videos, that means that you have a problem and you should refer to. Basically, you can click on any other video on the channel.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing brakes because we love drum brakes, you know? By the way, check out the merch, junkyarddigs.com. But yeah, regardless, just use your head. Take a look. If anything looks goofy, brakes are cheap. Rock Auto, a few bucks. You can get new components. All right, well, that inspection done, Angus, go ahead and rehang the drums and whatnot. I'm going to look to see what we can do about tires, because despite these holding and being fine, they are pretty dry rotted. One thing people never think of. Oh no, you blow a tire, you're inconvenienced on a road trip. Yes, that's true. But what you don't think of is if you blow a tire and this thing chunks out, like Angus's hula hoop tire from the Cougar last week's episode,
Yep.
it's gonna take all of this car body with it. So if you don't want to have to do body work and replace a whole quarter panel, spend the money and get new tires, or you're gonna be fixing everything, because they come apart violently and they just fold the back of this. All right, let's move on to probably inspecting wheel bearings.
Yeah,
Ooh,
let's do that.
we do also notice that we have new outer wheel seals
Yeah, so
on this
hopefully
axle.
that means new rear wheel bearings.
Oh yeah, dude, he had the whole axle apart.
Oh,
We
yeah.
did the math, right?
Yes, we did.
I just realized what that means. That means he's been through the entire axle at one point. They look about old enough. 65, we're doing about 3,100 RPM, which is somewhere around there. It's up around 373s in the rear of this car, and it is in fact a posi. So this dude took the whole rear axle apart, put a posi and gears and new bearings and seals in. So that's badass.
He did not nail the backlash, I wouldn't say.
Oh yeah, well yeah, something's a little worn.
Ka-thunk, ka-thunk.
All right, in the middle of our inspections, it's time to order up some parts. So we need to figure out what transmission this is. I don't know how well you can see right there. It does say GM, and here it does say General Motors. So this is probably a Muncie or a T10. We pulled up a web page here. There's our T10s and stuff, and nothing matched there. Too many side cover bolts.
Our side cover looks more like this shape here, which points to it being a Muncie. And we got 3 options here. The only other way to tell them apart is the way the shift arms attach to the side of the case. These two attach with a bolt, and the difference between those is the number of studs for your shifter mounter. So let's check and see if it's got nuts or if it's got bolts holding those arms on. Looks like nuts.
That is a early GM M20, M21 from 63 to 68, so it's way older than the car.
So we'll type in 64 Corvette 4-speed.
To the forums.
To the lucky guesses.
All right, the next thing we're going to take a look at is our steering up front. What you're going to want to do is get the car up in the air so the wheels are off the ground. Give each tire out a wiggle. Make sure there's not any play in those. These move, which is fine, but they're not loose. Now, as you can see, as I do that, our idler arm is moving up and down. He's got some play in him. And Angus, if you want to wiggle the drive shaft or the steering shaft, we've got, it might be hard to see on camera, but in person it's a lot easier. We've got a little slot in this side of this link where the ball resides from the center link. So for $25 we've got a new idler arm coming, and for another like 50 we've got a center link coming from O'Reilly's. We're going to replace these. Oh, speak of the devil. Right on time. Thank you, sir. Yeah, we're going to replace our center link and our idler arm just to take the slop out of that. This car really didn't drive very sloppy, but I mean, these are only going to get worse. The point of this is being, if you guys have a car that you just picked up condition unknown, you need to inspect all of these for movement. Very often people think they have a bad steering box and just replace it for $500 when it really actually had no issues at all. And it was either what we're about to talk about, which is the thrust adjustment, or the pitman arm end, tie rod ends, any of that down here. Very often, center link and pitman arm are most of your slop. This one does have, again, not very much, but just a touch of play where we can wiggle the input shaft. And this guy, for about this much movement of the input shaft, this guy doesn't move. Again, not bad, but this could be bad on someone else's car. So we want to show them how to adjust that. Now, on this steering box, power steering box from 80 to 85 GM cars, the thrust bearing adjustment, which is what nobody ever talks about on the internet, and the one you're supposed to adjust, not that nut on top, not this guy. The thrust bearing adjustment is on the back, makes it really easy to adjust. Lock ring, big hex 17, I guess, fits, or a bolt head, if you can find the right one. Knock that loose, tighten that up as we're about to show you, and that'll fix that. On the earlier ones, the more common GM box, it is on the front. You gotta have a special tool or take the steering shaft off to get in there and tighten him up. But that's gonna tighten all of our thrust this way, and then you can tighten that nut with the wrench and the screwdriver that everyone shows online, which is their over centering adjustment, which doesn't do hardly as much as the thrust bearing adjustment. And your box should, once again, be really tight like new, with way less effort and far less money. Let's do that. All right, step one, Angus is gonna knock that lock ring loose. Nice. Cool. That's looser than it was. Give her a smidgen.
Oh, that was a smidgen. I'm calling it.
Shouldn't take very much at all. Let's
no,
lower
especially
it
not
down.
in our case.
Yeah, let's see if that got our response time to be a little better. Oh, there's like 0 play in that now. It's perfect. Sweet. That was easy.
Yeah.
Now we just tighten this lock ring. The point of all this is the fact that no one ever talks about this thrust bearing, and this is what you adjust on a power steering box.
That's always going to be axially aligned with your input steering shaft. So what comes off your steering wheel, there's going to be an adjustment end to end. You just got to look up your own box and see where that lies.
Yeah.
Here's a trick on talking to women. Don't.
In other news, a trick on removing tie rod ends and whatnot. When they're encapsulated like this by a full circle, especially on these guys, these cast iron guys on the end here, all you gotta do is loosen this nut, strike this with a hammer on one of these flat faces, and that will change the shape just enough for a brief second that this conical shaft pressed into there will drop right out, which is what Angus is attempting to do over here.
Bravely, I might add. Sorry, Tyrod. This is going to be one of those, I hand it to you, you get it immediately.
One hit, ready?
Every time.
You want to try this one?
No!
You can redeem yourself over
No! You do it. You see if you can do it in one hit on this side, the one that I haven't been beating on.
Oh, I missed it.
There it is.
Yep. Hey, I got it. Gave it. Sweet.
Well, that was it. That was easy.
Oh, big floppy.
Big floppy.
And this guy.
Pretty similar, McGee. Anyway.
Okay, unlike GM, we will now have cotter pins in this. You'll love to see it. All right, steering box is tightened up. Center link is replaced. So is our loose McGee over here. You just want to give her a big wiggle. Let's see what we do. Oh, that's a lot better. Hell yes. Much less slappity-sloppity.
Yeah, we don't like the slappity-sloppity.
Last step, and something you should do even if you're not replacing stuff on a new vehicle. We're gonna grab the geese gun. We're gonna grab the grease gun and pump grease into every fitting we can find on the automobile. Especially these new ones, because they're supposed to be grease from the manufacturer, but who knows?
No, they never are.
Yeah. There we go. That's good.
Perfect.
Looking good. All right. On to the next thing. Actually, while you're down here, there's a few things to inspect. Bump stops, as you can see, gone. Don't care.
Just acknowledge that they're gone.
Yep. Sway bar links. Big beefy sway bar on this thing. These rubber bushings go bad often, and if you're from the north, the bolt that connects these often rusts and cracks, and your car will drive like a floppy fish.
Well, heck, even if you're not from the north, water gets in those rubber bushings.
True.
And just
stays in there. Yeah, these very often crack. In fact, I'm quite surprised to see these are still here. I'm assuming they've already been replaced. Another spot to inspect is the bushings on your sway bar. As you can see, we've got a loose one right here, so we're gonna try to give him a little tighten. And then, of course, all of your bushings on the control arms. Just get a pry bar in there, give them a wiggle, make sure nothing's super loose and floppy. Doesn't have a little wear, but they're fine. I'm not too worried about it. As long as I can't, force it up and down. They're good to go, top and bottom. Watch out for your brake line up here. Yep, nothing I'm too worried about there. Same on this guy. You'll know if they're bad, they'll be ridiculous. And then it's also a great idea when you have the wheel back on to try to shake the wheel like this to check for play in your upper and lower ball joints. Also, while you're there, make sure you clean these off and get some grease into those as well. Okay, I think we're done for suspension up front. Let's move on to the next thing. I mean, I don't hate it.
I've seen worse.
Better than the center line.
Certainly.
And the tires are good.
And they're 15, so we can get more tires.
That's true. Yeah, let's do it.
Convinced.
It's not the sexiest thing we've ever made, but yeah, it's better than those ugly things. I don't know you, but I've never liked center lines.
I never have either.
Thankfully, I do have this random set of 5 on 4 3/4 with good rubber sitting around that is probably a bigger tire. 215 70 15, so just a touch taller. Actually, speaking of new rims, here's a quick appearance upgrade for you. You may note if you hang that nice shiny rim on this really shitty, dirty, dusty, rusty drum, it looks like complete crap. Grab yourself a can of spray paint, kind of bomb this whole area black, dust over the axle a little bit, just whatever you see from behind, make it black, and it'll make that chrome wheel pop a lot better and make all this dirty, rusty sin disappear into the background and not be nearly as obvious. A little bit of black paint goes a long ways. Alrighty, as you can see, got the underside of the car kind of sprayed. Looks a lot better already. We're going to take a quick break because we got this old thing from the lady as well, and we just remembered it exists, and we want to know what happens when we plug it in and fill it with water. Supposedly, that's a pressure washer. I think it's a shop vac with a motor on top, but what do I know? Are we ready? I think so. Now you got to suck on this end to get it going.
I don't like that.
What the heck? I'm going to guess we need to bleed it. Okay, I think I got it figured out. I'm going to have a constant water supply. There's electric solenoids here. I have an on-off and a wash-rinse on that. I bet this is your soapy water reservoir, and otherwise it just pulls through the hose. Oh. Whoa! Oh boy. Wow. Something in this is claw. It was rust colored for a second, and then that happened. I bet we could fix this. Yes, much better. Let's try that. You're watching it here first, folks. Pressure washer revival. Yeah, look at that. Not bad for $10. I mean, it's no gas pressure washer. It's not bad. Alright, well, I think that's enough for today. We'll see you guys in the morning. Alrighty, wheel bearings. Let's get a look at what we're dealing with here. Pop our dust cover off here. Now, what you're looking for when you pop these apart is, well, believe it or not, grease. You're looking to see how dirty the grease is. You're looking to see how slippery the grease is. You're looking to see how much grease there is. Honestly, this side of this bearing does not look bad at all, but I'm already here, and it's not a bad idea at all to still go through and pop these apart and clean them up, so I might as well. Ooh, another thing to check, your nut tension. look how loose that was. After they run for a while, they wear all the grease out of that bearing, so you need to come back and give that a little more preload so that bearing doesn't get eaten up. Repacking wheel bearings is a service item that we like to do often, especially on a new vehicle, so that we can just be assured that it is done and that it is done correctly. This one honestly did not look too bad. There's not a ton of grease in the bearing, but there is grease. It probably would have been okay for a while. Regardless, we're going to pull this apart, clean this up, and then repack these and get it all reassembled so we know these are done. I never have to worry about it again. You'll hear a lot of times on power tours and stuff when people hop in a vehicle and drive it for a long ways after it's been sitting for a while or doesn't get driven much, they start burning up wheel bearings because those were not properly packed at the beginning of the trip. Alright, calipers out of the way. How's our inner looking? Yeah, again, not bad, but I'm already here, so let's repack them. And again, this one's fine, but yours might not be. So go through your wheel bearings. Easy stuff. Alrighty, threw our bearings in a bucket of gasoline, let them sit for 5-6 minutes, and they are good to go. Got our bearing press here. Press some new grease. This is faster than the screw-on style, but I swear there still has to be a better way to do this. If you know of one, comment below. Alright, there we go. You can also pack these by hand, by the way, but I'm trying this new thing out. I don't love it, but it's quicker. Alright, now before our bearings go back in, remember, grease is cheap. Bearings and time on the side of the road are not. So put plenty of grease down into that wheel hub. Alright, there we go. Rear bearing is in. Got our new wheel seal in here. Everything's cleaned up, looking good. I need to go along with some of this and wipe all the grease I just left on it off. Alright, now she's ready to go back on the car. Also, if your rotor's all really roughed up and pitted and looks like crap, take it down to O'Reilly's, have it turned, and then throw some new pads on it. Not a bad idea to, and spend a little money on safety. Plenty of grease in this one, that's for sure. Throw some of that back in the bucket. Alright, one last step here, wheel bearing preload. We're going to run this guy in until I get it to seat. Boop, there we go. Now I'm going to spin this. I'm going to spin this a good amount. Because what it's going to do is it's going to run all that grease out of the bearings, and this is going to get looser, just like it was when we took it apart. We can do it now and prevent that from getting extra loose later. Still not a bad idea after, 10 miles, 100 miles. Come back in here, pop the dust cap off, give this a little wiggle if it's loose, pull the cotter pin out, and tighten it up a little more. Now we drop in a used cotter pin so bad that it would make all my TIs in the Army attempt to wring my neck if they ever knew I did this. And then slap our dust cover back on. One last thing I can do is put a little anti-seize on the brake sliding surface right here, or just take my slightly greasy finger and there we go. Call that good. We're good to reassemble all this and move on to the next thing.
Good news.
What's that?
The shock is bad.
Oh, thank God. Okay, hopefully this thing should handle a lot better. Activate garbage can. Glad I had these on. Can't say I've ever seen that before. Oh, I see what happened. Interesting. I was spinning it with the impact, and it must have seized in the body enough that I was able to literally unscrew this. I didn't know this is how this was made. Anyway, yeah, if you're spinning this a bunch trying to get it off, be careful. It might apparently unscrew, and then you pull it off and it goes and sprays oil everywhere, and it stinks. Here's our new KYB XLGs. I like these. They're pretty affordable and ride real nice and perform pretty well. Anything should be a performance upgrade against the completely blown out Monroes this had before. So hopefully this makes this thing handle a lot better.
Okay, we mentioned earlier in the video we had a leaking power steering line, or so we suspected. When buying any new vehicle to you, it's really important to check for any sort of leaks, i.e. power steering, trans, cooler lines, fuel lines, brake lines, anything, and replace as needed. This was a pretty hefty leak, so we're going to go ahead and replace this line. Yeah, I'd say this one's had a good life. Let's throw a new one in there, and that should solve our power steering leak. Hopefully. Definitely. Hopefully, definitely. Alright, like Mom always says, in with the new power steering line.
Up underneath the car once again. I am wrapping up the exhaust header that broke off. We cut the flange and everything off, found this piece of 3-inch OD flared tube we had sitting around. Threw an adapter on the back, welded them together, and now we're just bolting this guy in place. This should be perfectly fixed. It's very solid, so that's impressive. Meanwhile, Angus, what are you up to?
I have been working on installing a new fuel filter in line, and well, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but I inadvertently developed a fuel leak on this rubber hose that goes between the frame and the fuel pump. That was exactly where I was going to put the fuel filter, but this is something to watch for. Fuel lines degrade over time. I'm going to throw a new piece of line in there with our filter, which again, it's a good thing to put a filter on a car that you really don't know anything about.
Just anything old.
Yeah, anything old that might have a rusty tank.
It's had 50 years to collect crap in the tank and rust and all that, so it's just cheap insurance for the road trips and daily driving.
So I'm going to replace that line, throw a filter in line, and we should be good to go as far as that's concerned.
All right, we are wrapping things up here. Not much left to do before we drop this on the ground and claim it to be good for daily status. But there is one more thing you need to go through and check on your vehicles, and that is that you have all functioning lights. The last thing you want to do is get pulled over for a taillight out or something stupid and they find an actual reason to give you a ticket. So that being said, as you may have noticed in the burnouts, I don't have any brake lights because this guy is blown. So let's get this new bulb in there and we should be good to go. One last thing underneath the car before we bring it down. I'm checking our transmission fluid level and our rear end level. Since again, condition unknown, you'd hate to have fun with this for 2 days and then be replacing the transmission because there's no fluid in it. Oh, yep, we're looking good. Plenty of gear oil in that, plenty of gear oil in the rear. We're good to go. Actually, one more thing to mention, U-joints. Yeah, we're gonna ignore that. If you have a greasable U-joint, get some grease on it. If not, it's not the worst idea to pop these apart and look to see that there is grease in them. Or maybe even replace them because you might find a bunch of wear. Pretty common wear item and a common cause for drive shaft vibrations, as well as tail shaft bushings. With this one, really nice and tight. But if you can take this and move up and down and it goes dunk, 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 there's a bushing in here that you can get a tool to pull out and replace, and that will also be a large cause of drive shaft vibration as it likes to flop around. Alright, now we're ready to drop this down.
Yeah.
Let's do it. One thing I want to mention on the side here, if this is your first project car or even your 10th, it's always a great idea to go get the actual Ford, Chevy, or Mopar shop manual. Not a Chilton, not a Motors, not any of those aftermarket separately written ones. Get the actual manufacturer's manual. It's going to show all sorts of ridiculous stuff that gets very, very in-depth. The other ones are just like, what were we looking for? Steering adjustment?
Yeah, steering box adjustment.
Yeah, and like the Chiltons and off-brand ones just said remove and replace and had like a paragraph on how to do that. This is all one vehicle, not 30 years worth. These talk about everything. You can sit down and read these things and learn stuff about your vehicle that you would have never known. Nevertheless, just vehicles in general, these explain really well what's going on, theory of operations and everything. So especially if this is your first project car, or you're still new to this, or want more information that's getting really hard to find online, hop on eBay and get the manufacturer's shop manual. All right, $10 pressure washer, you're up. Doing it. Man, look at this Corvette valve cover. Like new. Dude, check that out. That cleaned up way nicer than I ever anticipated it to. Surely all of our electronics in the ignition are wet and it'll never start now, but yeah. Well, we've got plenty of time to let that dry while we comment wash the outside and try to get all of this crap and rust knocked down and hopefully off and make this thing look even better. Let's give it a go. Once again, back with the Comet wash. I've got the engine bay all cleaned up. Time to work on the outside. This stuff, $1.50 down at Dollar General, sponge. What you're going to want to do is get some of that on your rag. Now it's going to be really hard to see on this car since it's white, but it's going to kind of wet sand stuff. And what we're going for is getting rid of this right here. All these cracks are rusty and just gives the car an extra orange vibe. Now we'll get the Comet in there and it'll get rid of a lot of that rust without screwing up our finish. Look at that. Takes a bit of scrubbing, but yeah. Let's see what we can do down here. Oh yeah, it's working. Maybe a little more abrasion in there, yeah. And the bleach helps with the rust too. Look at that, dude. Look at that. Not nearly as rusty now. Alright, let's keep that going for the whole car and clean this sucker up. Get it looking a little better. She needs a little more chrome to match the rims. I don't have any more chrome, so the best we can do is make the whole thing less rusty, so the chrome that is there stands out. That actually cleaned up really well. I don't know how well you guys can tell on camera, but all the rust and shit is gone. Well, most of it. For a quick reminder, that's what we were dealing with all over the car, all these pinholes and cracked paint and everything. But now, much more white and way less rust. Not bad for not having to use a buffer or anything. I'll take that.
I'd rather use the buffer. I'm tired.
Well, that's too damn bad.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
Yes.
This car is still made of carb.
And the engine is made of engine.
It's hot.
Yeah, so I drove this down to Des Moines and back today. A little test drive. You know, with something that you're planning to daily. You're going to daily it.
And you did drive it today.
Yes.
One of the days.
And you're going to find issues as you drive it more and more. Such as, for instance, driver's door still doesn't work. Our clutch is still very squeaky and very out of adjustment and weird. I don't like it.
At the end of its life.
It's probably worn out, as is the throwout bearing. And our heavy misfire issue. And we have a little bit of dieseling. I'm going to shut it off. So I think I'm going to start today by popping this distributor apart and getting a look inside. I think we either got an HEI coil going bad, or a module going bad, or a Hall of Fame. And in the meantime, you're going to be doing valve covers?
Yeah, it needs valve cover gaskets pretty bad because it's a small block Chevy, so it needs valve cover gaskets.
Believe it or not, they leak.
And once I'm done doing valve cover gaskets, it'll need valve cover gaskets.
All right, let's get to work. All right, what do we got? Looks like normal rockers inside.
Yes. Ooh. These are different heads.
Really?
What are they? I don't know, but it says World Cast in USA EV5.
Oh yeah, those are World heads. Holy shit. This says aftermarket cast iron heads, which might just be like the equivalent of a double hump.
If it is, Fuelie heads aren't bad.
Yeah.
People love them for a reason.
Well, let's give her a Google, see what we can find out. It's very clean inside too.
Yeah.
Very clean. All right, a quick Google. We have a set of World product heads. These are I052s. These are based basically on a double hump or a Fuelie head, but they're a little better. A little bigger valve, a little different compression and whatnot. We either have a 67 or a 76. We don't know. We're still trying to find the part number on the end of the head, which is proving to be difficult, believe it or not. But yeah, I mean, that's a pretty decent head for back then. Well, a little digging, as you can see right there. 42660, that's the 67 cc chamber.
That's what we love to see.
Yeah, that's pretty damn good. Let's pull a plug out and throw a bore scope down and see what else has been done to this thing.
I agree.
This is way more of a belt motor than I was anticipating. Alright, looking inside. That appears to be a flat top piston. We got valve reliefs on both sides. I don't see any part numbers though, so we can't really get an idea of what we have. God, Chevys are a nightmare to get a bore scope in. I think we definitely have some power hiding in this motor still. And I believe, since it's dieseling, it's once again in the form of ignition timing. Alright, let's dig into this ignition issue, see what is going on, or, well, this misfire issue. I've got our cap and rotor off here. As you can see, it is pretty dirty. It does need cleaned up, or even maybe replaced. Our carbon bit in the middle here still has some spring to it. The rotor, it's got some wear for sure, so I'm gonna try to get that out of there, get that cleaned up. We'll see what that does. Then we'll move forward to inspecting some more components. But yeah, it's got some corrosion. Alright, got our super scraper in there, got them all cleaned up. All our points are looking good. Something you always want to check on an HEI is the advance weights. These love to wear out the bushings and the springs and get stuck into all sorts of weird and wild stuff. So especially on the cheap Chinese distributors like this one, I don't see a name brand on this at all, so I suspect it is of questionable origin. But those springs seem to be functioning fine. They're maybe a little sticky, as you probably heard. They're squeaking a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and grease them up, oil them up with a little WD, clean them up, whatever, and then reassemble that. And once this RTV sets up in the valve covers, we'll go for a drive and see if that fixes anything. I doubt it, but man, that would be cool. Start at the basics. In relation to that, Angus noticed that we have some fitment issues on our new gaskets. These are a very unique valve cover that is cast to where it has a retainer on both sides for the gasket, and it's just a little too wide to fit into the centerpiece, so he's trimming it out so that it lays flat, and that will ensure that we don't have this happening, because if that does happen, it will never seal.
Yep.
Take your time, go slow, look things over, and then double RTV it.
Yep. Using the correct RTV, please. Coming from a guy whose first engine build was not Chevy orange, but RTV red, just use the appropriate RTV.
We haven't seen any red RTV on this guy.
No,
This guy
not a
really
sign.
did know what he was doing. Now that we've got our gasket cut down to size, Angus is taking his fingers and smearing a thin layer of RTV on either side. This will ensure that it glues itself to that surface and that surface, especially on stuff with porous irregularities in it. And I should point out that you should take some time, clean that really well with some brake clean and a rag, and get all the fluid out of these holes, or else when you run a bolt into this on anything on a motor, if it's full of oil, it will hydraulically lock and off and blow the back of the casting out. I've seen that happen before. Not a lot of fun. Want to make sure to just hit everything on your way down. Get that RTV all over, all of it. All right, we're all wrapped up in there, letting that dry. Let's deal with this damn door handle. Angus has got our door window crank removal tool. Is that about it? Yeah.
Yep, this is the window clip itself. Just gotta push that out of the way. Be very careful with these. They have a tendency to go whee, and then you never see them again. God, ugly door panels.
Yes, it does. AMC prosthetic leg beige interior,
Chevy plastic.
followed by school cafeteria lunch tray exterior, which I will say, I don't know if I've shown this on camera yet. After we cut last night, we spent a good long time on this side of the car scrubbing, and yeah, it is a ton better. I believe I was standing over here, but for reference, let's cut to before and after. Yeah.
No, this whole bottom side is...
What the hell?
I don't want to break it. This is a nice part of the whole door panel. Ouch. Oh, well, I guess it just sometimes
Comes right
comes
off.
out.
That's usually what they're like. Yeah,
Well,
weird.
that's silly.
Survey says, yep, the handle fell off, or the little rod fell off. All right, a little playing around. As you can hear, we have ourselves a working door handle. Before I close this up, there's one more thing I'm going to do while we're in here. I'm going to take a moment and grease the window slides. This is a great thing to do on old cars, as well as I've actually done this off camera. I have vacuumed the seam down at the bottom of the door. A lot of stuff packs up in there and rusts out the bottom of the doors. If you get that cleaned out, washed out, that will be a lot happier and last a lot longer. But for this, I'm just going to take a little regular grease and put it in these slide tracks here. And there's, what, another one over here or something? I don't know, just everywhere that I can find that it slides to include these tracks back here where the window glass actually goes up and down. Grease all that up, this will move so much better than you would ever imagine. Once that's done, I will then put this back together. I will go for a drive. All right, our door's back together. Take a little time trying to find the vacuum leak that we can hear behind this guy here. Something in the dash is hissing all the time, and in doing so, I just realized that we've never looked in the glove box. And in said glove box, I found the answers to a lot of our questions, actually. A bunch of receipts. There's the new exhaust. There's a speeding ticket for 10 over in Wyoming. This one's interesting. It says new motor, oil, filter in 2015. This motor looked like it had about 10,000 on it from the wear we saw. It looked really fresh, and that's 10,000 miles later. There's a work order for a new windshield, which it needs again. Complaint of fuel leak. Crack found in tank, replace tank, 2015. So no wonder the fuel system works so well. It's all brand new. Here's a big one. He had a bunch of stuff. Actually, hilariously, all this stuff written down on this napkin. Replace rear gears, pinion seal, turn signal switch, horn relay, shim kit for rear differential, turn rotors, brake hoses front, door jam switch, wheel seals up front, brake. So everything that we've seen that's been new. Here's new weather strip on all four doors, which is why this thing's not very loud inside. Replaced heater core 2017. And last but not least, loss of brake pedal, new rear wheel cylinders, and brake shoes in the rear of the car. So everything we suspected has been done. has been done and is now confirmed, and we know why and when it was all done. Definitely an early 2000s sleeper build. This thing's pretty fun. It will in fact outrun a Crown Vic. I found that out on the way here today. Oh, hey Mook.
Hello.
How are you?
Hungry.
Hungry. Well, you're just in time. We're taking the new daily driver on a new daily driver test to make sure it's daily drivable.
Wow.
Once again. Alright, moment of truth. Was not the cab and rotor. Well, let's go get the parts we need, and then we'll go try it again.
Can we go to Dairy Queen?
Absolutely not.
Yeah!
Nope. Okay, we're back from our test drive. We still have our prominent misfire issue, and we still have a bit of a dead spot when you lean into the pedal off of idle. That makes it stumble, makes it really hard to shift smoothly, hard to pull off the line. You leave, let the clutch out, hit the gas, and it just drops to 4 cylinders, and then picks back up on 8 and surges. A lot of slop in the driveline too. A lot of fun to drive. You just flying around the interior the whole time because you can't drive it smooth, and that sucks. Now I have suspicions that that is something we can easily fix with tuning. I think our transfer slots are open too far, and we do not have enough initial timing, so that would probably take care of that. Just set it up normal, but we still have that weird backfiery popping out the exhaust, what I think is an ignition issue. It's like the timing is just kind of all over the place when you lean into it. Sometimes it's just fine, and the next time it pop out the exhaust, or boom out the hood. We do know it wasn't the cap and rotor. I'm honestly kind of tired of dealing with it. This motor has aftermarket heads, intake, camshaft, headers. There's a lot going for this thing right here. Good carburetor and all. So why not spend the $180 and get a better distributor for the back of it? I asked myself that question in O'Reilly's a little while ago, and I had no good answer. So yeah, here it is. MSD distributor. Now if you're on a budget and you want to figure that out for yourself, you can go through the process of replacing the HEI coil or the HEI module. Hopefully one of those two would fix it, but those are like $53 a piece unless you can find a used one, which really isn't that hard. Well, there's $70. I got a whole distributor, so let's stab that into here and see if that fixes everything. I have a strong feeling it probably will. Alright, removing and replacing a distributor. Now this is going to be a process for a vehicle that's already running, such as this case. First things first, we need to remove our cap and pay attention to where the rotor is. You can roll the engine over the top dead center, or just look where it is right now, knowing that I turned the key off and this shut off and was running fine. And then go ahead and remove the distributor and pay attention to which way it rotates and about where it points when it comes out. So I want to point here when I drop the new one in. Get this piece of crap out of here. Now take your new distributor, orient the vacuum advance approximately the same. Point that right where the other one was. Drop them into place. Make sure it seats all the way down out of the intake, which it does. Lands facing the same direction, and boom, we're done. It's installed and phased correctly. Now with that being said, there's one thing I forgot to mention in the beginning. Look which plug this is pointing to. So like if this is 5, start your firing order from 5 all the way around, or else right now in this scenario, I don't actually know which cylinder is number 1. Thankfully I have my old cap still all together, all the wires are still in the old cap and rotor, so I can just go copy those. And then, of course, since there's a distributor in here, get your timing light and set the timing properly. Let's go do that. We got our distributor body in. We need to talk a little bit about vacuum advance limiters. The Street Fire and the Pro Billet HEIs from MSD both come with this little guy, which has 4 positions. Flip it over for the other 2. And what these do is limit the amount that this right here is able to move, and this moving is your vacuum advance. Now the reason we're worried about this is because of the fact that this has a larger than stock camshaft. We need to run a little more initial timing than usual to help with the cylinder pressures being lower, because the dynamic pressure's low due to the long duration of the camshaft and other technical sciencey terms. But usually camshaft, a little more initial timing, and then on top of that we're going to have 22 degrees of mechanical advance at 4,000. This thing drives down the road at 55 or 65 mile an hour at 3,000. So we're pulling a good bit of mechanical advance just driving around. So we're going to be looking at, I don't know, say 14 initial plus another 22. That's already 36 degrees of timing, which is plenty for wide open throttle. But if we're on just a little bit of throttle, the volume of air and fuel charge in the cylinders is small, and a less dense charge, a lower volumetric charge in the cylinder, requires more ignition timing to burn efficiently, which is where Vacuum Advance comes in. Now, again, since we're at $3,000 going down the road, we're already looking at like probably 30 degrees, and then this would throw on another like, I don't know, like 14 or 17. So it's up into the 40s, 50 degrees going down the road. Way too much timing. So we need to put this Vacuum Advance limiter in. I'm going to shoot for, I think I decided C, which is 11 to 14 degrees is probably an okay starting point. I have no idea. We're gonna kind of wing it and see what happens. The fact that everything is made of magnets and these are all tiny bits of metal, yeah, it makes this a real pain in the ass. Alright, there we go. Now, our Vacuum Advance is mechanically limited to only go that far, and if I need to change it, I can just flip this guy around. Okay, let's get some plug wires on this, get it all reassembled, and see how it does. Voila! There we are. MSC distributor is in place. Things are looking good. We've got wires that are made to a custom length, so they should fit in here a lot better. They're not going to hit our headers. They're all brand new. We know those are good to go, assuming we made them right, so we don't know anything actually.
50-50.
They work or they don't. I've got our Vacuum Advance plugged off up here so that there's no Vacuum Advance running to the distributor. I'm just going to give it a crank. I'm going to hit it with a timing light. We're going to try to lock in our initial timing, and then we're going to go over the standard tuning procedure, which I outline in this video up here, which is how to tune carburetors. If you can't find it up there, it'll be down in the description. If you want to know what the hell I'm about to do, go watch that. It's a whole hour-long deal that I'm not about to talk about, but I do it really good over there. Activate.
Activating.
Still in
This
gear.
car's in gear.
Yes, it is.
First step, make sure the car's not in gear.
Thank God the timing wasn't right. It just pushed me. Go for it. Almost getting run over. That's probably the best fire up we've ever had. 15 degrees initial. Right on the money, just like I said. All right, let's go for a drive. Already pulling out of the garage, way better. Like it doesn't, die. Look at that. I can let out of the clutch.
Whoa, that's
all 8
smooth.
cylinders actually pull the car forward. This is going to be so much better to drive. The drivability off the line is unrecognizable versus before. With just a little bit of tuning, setting the transfer slots correctly, setting the initial timing correctly, and having everything in functioning order. This is a whole different car. Oh, it's way more powerful. I think we just dialed probably, if I had to guess, 50 horse into this thing. On it a little bit. Oh, this thing, dude. This is so much better.
Smooth too.
It is. This makes this car look so small.
It is.
Very roomy interior here. In the oh, it's much spunkier. Initial timing, initial timing, initial timing. That's where all your power and efficiency lies. Your ignition timing is more important than anything else when it comes to engine tuning.
Okay, Grandpa, take your pills.
Well, I'll take my pills, boy.
This thing's
Take it back.
fun.
We just put 80 horse into this thing.
This is a different car.
This is a whole different car, and it didn't cut out.
Oh, you're right.
That distributor was junk. Either the module or the coil, I don't know, or even the Hall effect sensor could have been bad. But this is way better. Look at that. There is the needle.
Damn. Let's just say we're doing the speed limit.
Yes, yeah.
Maybe a
There is the needle.
little extra.
Right into 55 mile an hour. That is so much better. It's quieter now.
It is quieter now.
You know what?
We don't have a bunch of air charge in.
Well, no, our combustion event isn't happening outside of the engine.
Yeah.
I was able to turn the idle curb screw, the transfer slot, down, but retain the same amount of RPM at idle. If not a little more, it idles way better now.
Yeah.
And I replaced that transfer slot with
Initial timing.
thus removing the dieseling, making our off-idle performance a lot better and our efficiency a lot better. And because the timing's now in the right spot, all of the combustion events happening inside the cylinder, and we're not wasting any actual pressure and flame out the exhaust, which makes them really loud. Cruising down the road, way quieter now.
Oh yeah.
180 bucks. One O'Reilly's distributor, like the cheap MSD.
Yep.
But make sure it's at least an MSD. Don't buy the $65 Chinese distributors. That's exactly, once again, what caused the problems with this. Every single time we see one, we have to replace it because they're junk. That one had a lot of miles on it too.
Yeah, dude.
Not bad. This thing is not a slow car.
No, this is
a blast. This is a blast. I'm calling this fixed. Let's see if we can make it to bingo. I think for once we probably won't overheat on the way to bingo.
I'll say that.
Ah, those are electric. They're not accurate. Alrighty, here we are, off to the bar for bingo night, and our new reliable daily driver. Honestly, I have no questions at all at this point whether or not this thing's gonna make it. Hell, we put enough miles on at this point, just testing this as we go, finding more problems, fixing more problems, rinse and repeat. Done that so much at this point that I actually had to go get fuel just to make it 15 miles to the bar. We got Angus behind us in the Lincoln. But yeah, Malibu doing absolutely fantastic. This thing is a freaking blast. This is like a Fox body with 4 doors and a wagon hatch. This is hilarious. God, this thing runs so good. This is honestly a fantastic combination for a really strong budget 350 Chevy. 278-ish duration camshaft, something that's easy to tune yet makes good power. Some Vortec heads, which are essentially probably the equivalent to these. Headers, 4-barrel intake, 355 rear gear. Not going to be great for the highway for long trips, but drive an hour and back, no problem. A 4-speeder, a T5, and just go have fun. Like, plug that into any car and have fun. This thing's a hoot. All right, let's go get Mook. I have no idea what that is.
Gross.
Yeah, it does it at idle. It's like, maybe the inside of the muffler's broken.
Could be.
But like, when you rev it. It's still there. Yeah. Too much power.
Too much power. You know what it sounds good with? Open headers.
No, no. Now it'll be loud.
Bingo.
Bingo time. You ready?
Yeah.
Mook, there's been some changes made to the car.
What's that?
We put a different distributor in and probably tuned in, honestly, 85 to 100 horse. Ooh. Are you ready?
No. Yes.
Well, Angus wants some. That thing got a Hemi?
No.
On you. Yeah, this thing, a riot. This guy built one hell of a car. Just took a little tuning to get the rest of it out of it. Bingo time?
Bingo time.
Finally, for once we've made it to the bar with no mechanical failures. And the Malibu isn't smoking, doesn't smell like oil, it's running fantastic, it drives 1,000 times better than it does when we picked it up. You can actually, like, you know, turn now. It shifts a lot smoother. This thing is a whole different car. And all it took us was basically 2 days of work, and this sucker's ready to go. Oh, hey, you made it.
Just barely.
What took you so long? There you have it. Those are the things to look for if you pick up a project car that someone else has had, or your first old car, to make it go from condition unknown to daily driver reliable. And I am very excited to do just that with this car. Drive the damn wheels off of it. That's what Ted, the guy who built it, originally intended for himself, so we are going to carry on the tradition. Thank you guys for joining us on this episode. If you liked it, leave a comment and subscribe. Best way to support the channel is to check out the merch, neither of which, all three of us, none of which are available. But check out the merch on junkyarddigs.com. We'll see you right here next week for another episode. Peace.